Welcome to the Screening Room, everyone. My name is Nick Hintz, and I am here with Susie Essman. She plays the character Gilda in her latest film, Putzel. Susie, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good.
Now, my first question for you is actually, how did you get involved with this film, Putzel?
They sent a script to my agent, and I read almost everything my agents send me because you never know when there's a gem. Most of the times they're not. 4 times than not, scripts are bad. And I really liked the script. I thought it was a really sweet story. I liked the character, so I said I would do it.
That's great. And then could you, maybe for people who haven't seen or heard of the film, could you kind of explain what it is and really who your character is?
Yeah, it's a story about a family who lives on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, which I have for 30-something years. And it's a kind of Barney Greengrass bagels and lox store that was handed down through the grandfather. And it's a story about this kid, Putzel, who can't seem to leave the neighborhood. And I play his Aunt Gilda, who's really kind of the and my husband runs the store with Putzel, and Gilda is kind of the emotional glue, I think, of the family.
That's nice.
And what attracted me about it was that, I'm so often typecast, which is kind of a good problem and a bad problem to have. So I liked that she was a very soft, maternal, mothering kind of a woman, not what I'm known for.
Mm-hmm. And that being said, this kind of not being what you're known for, were there some challenges in kind of taking on this different character for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's always challenges in every acting part that you do. There's always challenges. There's some emotional scenes. There's some, I discover. Well, I don't want to give stuff away about the story, but there's things that I discover that are very painful that I had to deal with and be in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you have like a favorite production memory, something that you'll kind of remember?
Well, what was interesting is we shot in a bagel store on 72nd Street, and we did it during Passover because they were closed. So it was kind of fun to be in this empty store that I had been in a million times because I live in the neighborhood. We shot everything on the Upper West Side. It was totally convenient for me because I live there, as does Jason, the director, and a bunch of the cast members. So we just really had a blast.
That's great. It certainly sounds like you had a lot of fun kind of doing it locally.
John Pankow, who plays my husband, is such a wonderful actor. Also lives on the Upper West Side. It was just like a family affair.
That's great. And you mentioned the family. So what was it like kind of working with some of the other actors that were in this? Was it kind of, you had that family feel going?
Yeah, I mean, Jack Carpenter plays Putzel, and I felt like we had a great rapport. And John plays my husband, and we just hit it off the minute we met, and can't wait to work with him again. He's just a gem of an actor. Mm-hmm. And but again, I mean, I can't stress enough, it's always about the script.
Mm-hmm.
It's always about the script. You could make a bad movie from a good script, but you can't make a good movie from a bad script.
Right.
So it always comes down to the writing. And when you see a movie and it's flawed, almost invariably, if you take it apart, you'll find out it's the script.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. And then kind of on that, because the film was partially written and directed by Jason Schett. So how was that working with him kind of as the writer-director?
Jason was a dream to work with. It was an extremely low-budget movie. I think the budget on the movie was something like $200,000. So we shot everything really quickly. I mean, that's what you do when you do a low-budget movie, which was fine for me. That, to me, is the most tedious part of filmmaking, is how long everything takes. So Jason was just, fantastic to work with. I mean, he knew exactly what he wanted. He was really, really quick. He knew how to get performances out of actors in a very gentle way, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really enjoyed working with him. I'd work with him again in a heartbeat.
That's great. And what was it, you mentioned that briefly, what was it kind of like working on a lower budget film? Because you've done a lot of, like high budget stuff. You've done like Curb Your Enthusiasm, and you've been involved with like Walt Disney, and you did Bolt. Those are a lot of big budget films. So what was it like?
Well, they have better catering, which I never really care that much about. Doing a low budget film, besides the fact that you make next to nothing, You got to improvise a lot. You have to not have a hair and makeup trailer. But I'm used to that. When we first started doing Curb in 2000, we had a really, really low budget. We didn't have trailers. We didn't have makeup. We didn't have any of that stuff. So I was used to that. It's challenging, but again, I don't make movies or television shows for the glamour or the luxury of it. I do it because I either like the work or I don't like the work. And if I like the work, then I don't really care what the budget is. Then you're creating something with other people. The joy of that collaboration is what it's all about, is creating this thing together, and it's such a collaborative thing.
That's great. And now
with everybody. I mean, the grip and the gaffer and the electrician and the cameraman and everybody is in pulling to make this thing happen.
That's great. It sounds like a great time. Could you kind of almost describe like what was a typical day on the set for you?
Usually typical days on the set start really, really early. Usually have, I don't know what your call is, a 6 o'clock call sometimes, 6 a.m. You go into hair and makeup, you get into wardrobe, and then hopefully you're not sitting around waiting for another 4 hours while they light it. Too often that happens. On Putzel, I think we shot, I'm trying to remember because we did it a couple of years ago, I think we shot really quickly. I think that it was a really well-organized shoot. But stuff always happens. All of a sudden there's a boom shadow in a shot, and then you have to do it. There's always things that happen.
Right. I feel like Murphy's Law comes into play on a lot of film shoots.
It does. No, but you have to adjust.
No, it's great, and I think it certainly worked out in this case. And what was it that, I am curious though, what was it that kind of got you interested in acting and doing all this?
I don't think there was ever anything else that I ever wanted to do. I always wanted to be an actress. I never thought I would end up as a stand-up comic. That was the thing that never occurred to me. And that was really what my career became about, much more than acting. It was the only thing that I ever wanted to be or do from when I was a little girl. Growing up around New York was great because my parents always took me to Broadway, which was so influential in my life, to see live theater. And I think that's seeing people up on stage, making people laugh, touching people emotionally was just really appealing to me. And I always had this fantasy life and this imagination that just went wild. I mean, even when I was a little kid, I used to write plays and get the whole neighborhood to put them on. It just was something that always interested me.
And for you, what is your favorite part of kind of acting in something?
Not being myself.
Really?
Yeah, I really enjoy losing myself into another character. And I mean, I like the idea of becoming something other than myself, of just living in somebody else's skin for a little while. I just find it really interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. So, and for you, you've done a lot now, because you've done films, and not just like live action films. You've done some voiceover work, and you've done some television shows. Is there do you have a favorite of any of those three?
Well, I would say stand-up is my first love. And then I would say, I don't have a favorite. I like doing lots of different things. Doing voice work is really interesting. It's a challenge. It's different than doing acting on film or acting on stage. I like doing all different things because then I never get bored. My favorite job has always been Curb. That's the most fun job, doing Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Right, I imagine so. And speaking of doing a lot of things, you were mentioning to me before we started that you're going to be doing some stuff locally, correct?
Yes, I'll be in, I don't know the exact dates. In November, I'll be at Governor's in Levittown. I think November 14th, something like that. I'll be, which I love that club. It's like my favorite comedy club in the world.
No, that's great. And then do you have anything else lined up right now, or that's it?
I always have stand-up stuff all over the place. I'll be in Vegas September 5th and 6th, so something like that. I can't keep anything straight.
There's nothing wrong with that, and it certainly sounds great. And this movie Putzel, it's available online, right? You can watch it.
Yeah, on iTunes. It's a really, really sweet movie. I mean, it's a romantic comedy, but it's not a sappy romantic comedy. It's funny, and it's just when you're working on something, you never know what the finished product is going to turn out like. And sometimes you're really disappointed. I was absolutely thrilled with the finished product of this movie.
No, it's certainly, and it's won a couple of awards. I know it's been entered in a couple film festivals.
Yeah, it's done really well on the festival circuit.
It's won some stuff, and it is now available. You can go to the website and you can check it out. And there's links to like Amazon and iTunes and all the.
And it's a very New York story.
So I like it. There's no better place to shoot a film than New York.
I agree.
That's great. All right. Well, the movie is called Putzel. Susie Essman plays the character of Gilda. You should definitely check it out. And Susie, I want to thank you for coming down and talking to us. It's certainly been an honor to discuss this with you.
Thanks so much.